Companionship can be tricky business, especially when it involves hunting down and killing murderous witches intent on exacting bloody vengeance from all humankind. This is the business of Knight's Contract, and it features a lot of gruesome and satisfying combat. Might and magic combine nicely as you face the wrath of witches gone wild, but scorned women aren't the only source of fury in Knight's Contract. Extremely unforgiving quicktime events and problematic level design make the impressive boss fights more aggravating than they should be, and uneven visuals and pacing hinder the excitement of your adventure. Yet, the brutal fun of tearing through enemies with a giant hammer, scythe, thing, and rending them asunder with powerful magic keeps this quest afloat, making Knight's Contract an appealing journey for those with a stomach for rough seas. In Knight's Contract, you play as the battle-scarred Heinrich, a former executioner cursed with immortality. Your companion, Gretchen, is the very witch who cursed you, herself bound to a mortal body. When she offers to lift her curse in exchange for your services, the allure of the sweet release of death is too tempting to resist. They don't have much in the way of chemistry, but as Heinrich and Gretchen unearth the betrayals of the past, there's some interesting story developments and touching moments. There's also a lot of lackluster writing, but even so, you won't be sorry when another cutscene begins. Though they don't match the excellent animation and dramatic cinematography of the teasers that run when you let the game linger on the title screen, the intermittent story scenes chronicle an interesting tale. Throughout the majority of Knight's Contract, you play as Heinrich. Using light and heavy attacks in conjunction with grapples and dodges, you slash and smash your way through legions of enemies using a weapon that is part scythe, part hammer, and part switchblade. Combos are easy to string together and don't get much more complicated than a certain amount of light attacks followed by a certain amount of heavy attacks. While it is satisfying to carve up baddies, things get much more enjoyable when Gretchen lends her magical prowess to your onslaughts. Though she's an AI character and will defend herself with a few small spells, you control when she unleashes the good stuff. These magical attacks might entwine enemies in thorny vines, or impale them with spikes. As you earn souls from killing enemies, you can upgrade your spells to make them even nastier. Assaulting your foes with magical and martial attacks is very satisfying, and executing gruesome finishers puts an exclamation point on the whole affair. When you hit a weakened enemy with a magical attack, a button prompt gives you the chance to finish with style. Hit it to turn your magical trap into a chomping maw of death, or make your phantom sword brutally rip your enemy to pieces. Not every enemy or boss is susceptible to the same finishers, and finding the right one can make combat much easier and much more fun. Your most powerful combat ability involves a kind of power meter that fills slowly as you vanquish foes. Once full, you can choose to trigger it for Heinrich or Gretchen. Choose Heinrich and he'll turn into a hulking minotaur that can dish out huge amounts of damage. Choose Gretchen and she'll make your enemies disappear using the Witch's Embrace, which involves turning into a huge blue naked version of herself and striking a pose. I did mention that it kills the enemies on screen, right? Yeah, that's totally the point of this attack. Killing enemies with her butt. Alas, it's not all bloody evisceration and big blue booty in Knight's Contract, because you have to keep Gretchen safe. If Heinrich is killed, you just have to mash a button until his immortal flesh reconstitutes itself. If Gretchen dies, it's game over. You can summon her into your arms at any time, increasing the health regeneration rate for both characters. If she's too far away from you or restrained by an enemy, you won't be able to use magic until you two are reunited. For most of the game, it's not too hard to keep the enemies occupied and keep her health up. But then there are the boss fights. Knight's Contract boasts some impressive big bads, and the character design on these nasties is a visual highlight. Learning their patterns, dodging attacks, and striking back can be very engaging, but keeping Gretchen alive can be seriously difficult. Bosses can kill her in just a few hits, so you often have to spend time running around carrying her instead of attacking. While this can be part of the challenge, some bosses take things too far, resulting in a lot of cheap deaths. The worst offender is a fiery warrior demon that creates pools of lava that Gretchen can't seem to get herself out of. Environmental imperfections and AI imbalances are mere irritations when they appear in normal combat. In boss fights, they are truly infuriating. And even when boss fights don't have aggravating problems, every single one ends with an extremely unforgiving QuickTime event. You have a very small window from the time the prompt appears to the time you fail. Fail just one press and the boss regains partial health and you have to resume normal combat. The only consolation is that the presses follow the same sequence every time, so you can eventually memorize them and hit them the instant they appear. But this is small consolation indeed. Your adventure proceeds at a good pace for the first half of the game, but then you enter levels that feel like detours and the game loses some momentum. There's still satisfying combat and nice environmental design touches to be found in these parts, but you can't help shake the feeling that these levels are too maze-like for their own good. Heinrich isn't exactly a speed demon, and his loping jog starts to feel like a plodding schlep whenever you have to backtrack. Knight's Contract can keep you busy for a good long while, but the uneven pace can weaken your motivation to press on. Yet, despite the erratic pacing and the often aggravating boss fights, Knight's Contract is an adventure worth taking. The flashy combat may not be very complex, but a combo ranking system and end-of-level score breakdown encourage you to hone your skills, and it's fun to wield your deadly weapon and powerful magics. The problematic gameplay elements can dampen this fun, but the stylish artistic design and interesting story help counterbalance these issues. Knight's Contract isn't a game for those without the patience to push through some trying times, but those who do persevere will find satisfaction in a world well saved.